Got one on. Hey, what's up guys? Sam here with Wildlife Adventures. Got a great video for you today. Today we are meeting Kelsey Lincoln at the Eno boat ramp, and we're going white bass fishing. Kelsey is a District 5 fisheries biologist for the state of North Carolina. And she and I met last year. She came to my depot and we got to talking about white bass. She has a great passion for the white bass fishery, and I love to fish white bass, so we kind of hit it off and exchanged some ideas and issues. And I found out she had never fished for the white bass. She's electroshocked them, sampled them, studied them extensively, but never had the opportunity to go fishing. So we've been trying to put this trip together for about 4 weeks now. In some of my other videos you'll see that we've already been white bass fishing, so she and I have been keeping in contact. I didn't want her to really come on a trip till I knew that white bass was really up the river and we could catch some fish. So anyway, we got rain moving in, unfortunately, and so we may have a quick trip this morning. And so we're getting ready to meet her at the boat ramp here, and hopefully in just a little bit we'll be catching some fish. And we'll have a few questions and answers for Kelsey throughout the day. We hope to get that into the show too. Anyway, I'll see you on the water. Alright, maybe we'll get this one on film. You got it? Come on, baby. Alright, you got two. Alright, just lift him over in the boat. There you go.
My first ever white bass on hook and line.
Yeah, you've been cheating the other way, right? Nice, that's right. A little bit better. Male? That's a male, ain't it? Yeah.
Actually, it's female.
It's a female?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, alright.
Usually if nothing comes out this time of year, either eggs or nothing will come out.
Okay.
That's
cool. There he is. I got your fish. Look at that. What?
such a pretty fish.
Oh yeah. Maybe about 10 inches. There he is. Oh, they sluggish. I was fishing that really, really slow. It looked like something tried to eat him. He's got those scars on his side. You got him? Oh yeah, I hear you. Boy, this turned into an old pro back there. There you go. Well, hey, as slow as it's been, we'll take what we can get today. Hey guys, this is Kelsey Lincoln. In my opening comments, I let you know we was going to be going fishing with her today. She is a District 5 fisheries biologist for North Carolina, and she and I met last year, and she has done some extensive studies on the white bass fisheries. And since I like to white bass fish, we got into conversation, and she informed me that she had never had the chance to go white bass fishing. So today on this video, you'll see her catch some white bass. We've been fishing in the rain all morning. It finally took a break here a few minutes ago, so we decided to break the video out and ask Kelsey a few questions about the white bass. So one question I had, Kelsey, is when you do it, tell me a little bit about the studies you did for white bass and how you become to study the white bass and your interest in the white bass fishery.
Yeah, so I actually am originally from Michigan, and I moved down here in 2011 to go to grad school, and the project that I was working on was funded by the commission through NC State to study white bass ecology in Jordan Lake. And you know, one of the reasons the commission's been focusing a lot of efforts on white bass recently is because, as I'm sure a lot of you are aware, some of the populations have been declining over the last 10 years, or they've just completely disappeared. So our job as biologists is to kind of figure out why they're declining, what could be causing these declines throughout the state. So a few of the things that we suspect would be interactions with other invasive species such as white perch, which we see out here in the Eno, competition for resources with those fish, mortality, whether it's natural or high fishing mortality, and then also just something to do environmentally that we're just unaware about. So those are kind of the three mechanisms that we're looking into, and with my research we found that there was a significant amount of fishing mortality, especially during the springtime, which I'm sure you can imagine.
Right.
We've seen a lot of people out here fishing today. But we also saw that most of their natural mortality occurred during this time of year too. So these fish are under a tremendous amount of stress from spawning, and then they're also getting hit hard by all the anglers. And so another thing that concerned us was that all these populations were severely age truncated. So this is a fish that can live up to 14 years in some northern states, and possibly up to 7 or 8 years down here, and we were hardly seeing any fish above 4 and barely any fish that were 4. And so these fish don't mature until they're 1. For females, they don't always mature until they're 2, and so they're reaching 12, 14 inches before they're even sexually mature. So they're being removed from the system before they can spawn, and that just kind of limits the robustness. So they have, if you have a bad few years of recruitment and you only have fish living to be about 3, well then you're relying on just 1 year to bring basically the whole population back.
And that was one of the reasons the commission made the move to put the size limit at 14 inches. Is that correct?
That's right. So the 14 inches, well, our main goal with this regulation change is to just create more robust populations, kind of slow that growth down, create a fishery that has more older fish in it so that they can be more robust, whether, if there's a drought several years and they're not able to have a good spawning run, we know that there'll still be older fish in the system. So we set that limit at 14 because we wanted to allow females who grow slower to reach sexual maturity and be able to spawn at least once, maybe twice, before they can be removed.
Now you told me something interesting about the white bass fishery in Jordan Lake versus here in Falls Lake, and we're fishing Falls Lake white bass here because they're coming up the Flat River and the Eno River. And you was telling me that in the Jordan Lake they grow a lot faster.
That's right.
Can you tell us why you think they grow a lot faster in that ecosystem?
Well, Jordan Lake's just a really productive lake. All of the fish species in that lake have really fast growth, and that has to do with the extensive forage base. Falls Lake isn't in my district, so I really haven't seen the data to know what kind of population we got out here for forage base. But yeah, so the Jordan Lake fish are growing we based our regulation off of our Jordan samples
Right.
for the state. So, but not every lake is going to have the same growth. But we wanted to get a regulation in place as soon as possible because we were having several populations crash throughout the state. And so the Jordan Lake females will reach 14 inches by 2, and that's our goal. Out here in the Eno, they don't reach, they reach harvestable size by the time they're 4. So potentially in the future, you know, we could make some fine-tune adjustments, sort of like how largemouth are different across the state. Yeah, so there's definitely like nothing set in stone, and we're definitely open to, you know, kind of adjusting and tweaking this regulation as we learn more, because there's a lot of populations that we don't do routine surveys on, and we're still learning so much about white bass. So.
Yeah, that study's ongoing. You said you're going to do something this fall trying to track the white bass on their migration to the lake, because they're an open water fish, so they don't really hang to structure like bass. And so most people fish for them in the spring, like myself, when you can usually, you know, catch them in large numbers. And we don't usually target them in the summertime as well as in the wintertime like most fishermen.
Right.
This is the time that most fishermen come to the creeks and rivers to actually fish for the white bass when they make their spawning migration.
That's right. It's a very seasonally important fishery here, seasonally popular fishery.
You holding out on me back there? You got him? Oh yeah. Nice.
I've just been trolling.
Seems to work.
Easy.
Oh yeah, that's a nice.
Oh yeah.
Oh, you didn't net him? Hold on. You net him. Oh, I'm glad I put new line on there. Woo, that was nice.
Oh, sorry. Were you getting the net out?
Yeah, I was gonna net him. Yeah, that's what we're here for.
Golly.
Yeah. Nice. It's a nice white bass. You want to measure it? All right, what's the biology? What do you think?
Female. I'm gonna guess
12? I'm gonna say 14.
You think it's 14?
Yep.
Wow, you're right. I must have been seeing a lot of big fish yesterday. Or 2 days ago.
Yeah.
Cool.
It's almost 15 inches, won't she?
Yeah.
Nice.
That's pretty big.
It's nice.
You want a picture with it?
No, I'm good. I'm good. You want to pick? Hey, back here talking trash now, boy. Golly. Boy. I see how it is now. I'm going to have to stand up and get serious now.
I think I'm up to 6 now.
Oh, boy. Pressure is on.
So one of the things that we've saw an adult white perch will look very similar to a white bass, and a lot of the anglers, even myself, sometimes find that difficult for a juvenile white bass. And so you voiced your concerns that some people are keeping the juvenile white bass thinking that they are white perch. And I notice it's difficult for me when the water gets dingy and they begin to change some colors for me to even tell. But there's some differences in the dorsal fins, there's some differences on the tongue that you can tell. So just tell us a little bit about the differences for people to look at so they're not keeping an illegal fish.
That's right.
Yeah, we don't want that to happen.
I mean, you can keep as many white perch as you want.
Right, right, exactly.
Here we have a small white bass. This is probably an age 0 white bass. So you can see it's got the lateral line running down the middle of it. And then it's got at least 1 or 2 full stripes that run the full length of the fish. And then you get some broken stripes near the top and the bottom. So that's one way that you know it's a white bass, is when it's got more stripes than just the lateral line.
Mm-hmm.
So then you can look inside the mouth. I don't know if you can see in there. And you can see their tongue patch in there. Well, you can't really see it, but if you stick your finger in there and you feel it, it'll feel kind of like sandpaper.
Okay.
So that's how you know it's got a tooth patch.
Okay.
So here we have a white perch. This is a larger white perch, so kind of the same size as these juvenile age 0 white bass. And right away you can notice it kind of has an olive colored tint to it as compared to a silvery bluish tint that most of the white bass have. And there's not really any lines on it. If you look closely, you can see the lateral line running down the middle, but it's not always clearly defined, and certainly not as defined as the white bass. When you look inside their mouths, you can feel again for that tooth patch, and it's just going to feel smooth. So you won't have any sandpaper feel at all, and that's really the main way you can tell the difference between the two. They're keeping these thinking that they're white perch.
White perch, I mean.
So they're thinking they can keep as many of these as they want because they think they're white perch.
Right.
Which you can see, I mean, they do look very much alike. But again, this one's got no stripes. This one's got stripes.
Cool. Probably 3/4 of a pound. She's probably 12 inches long. This big crab. Oh, there he is. Go over there towards that bank. Over there.